This is the Wow Huahin channel, hosted by Nook.
Hello, welcome to Wow Huahin channel. My name is Nook. Today I'm at Siam Handlebar. Today I'm going to interview Nigel Goode. He's a co-founder of Siam Handlebar. Okay, สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีครับ
Thank you so much for having us today. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions, just so you know.
Super.
I know that you are founder of Siam Handlebar. Can you please tell me a little bit about this place, the big buy and all kind of things, like how did you find?
Sure. We've been now operating for 6 years, and we've tried a few different models, if you like, business models, but currently we have the biker shop. It has all of the riding gear for big bikes. We're selling big bikes, we transport big bikes, we rent big bikes. We also have a cafe restaurant, sort of big bike style cafe restaurant theme. We have big bike rides, and so that sort of business model. Of course, our big bike detailing as well. We're really the only shop in Huahin that does that combination of things, that service and products for big bike riders. We advertise to the biking community, and word of mouth over the last 6 years has grown our, if you like, our community to about 50, plus or minus 50 bikers who have big bikes and live in Huahin. And we also have a lot of biker friends who visit us when they go riding out of Bangkok and other cities, but mainly out of Bangkok. So it's a lot about having functions and having events and having rides. We do regular rides as well.
So how often do you do that, like the event?
We have rides every weekend, so-called Siam Handlebar weekend rides. Saturday we have a sports ride every 4 or 5 weeks. Sunday we have a Sunday cruise every Sunday. That's part of what we do. I mean, we have weekend rides mainly for ourselves to enjoy riding. We do that as a group, and then we stop for coffee. We're out for 5 or 6 hours. And 7 or 8 times a year we have away rides. So we ride away somewhere else in Thailand. That's anywhere from 1 night to 11 or 12 nights. So we can be in all parts of Thailand where there's interesting road riding. And a few times a year, I think I'm going to say 3 times a year, we have a charity function. And that we build the charity function into an away ride. Here we have a charity ride, so we ride from, as a group, we ride from Huahin and from Bangkok. We join a group in Bangkok, and then we ride up to Chaipom, and we promote and create awareness around the great work that they do for this local school in Chaipom.
How did you get into this kind of business? Like, were you a racer, or were you study in school?
I started riding when I was probably 8 years old.
8 years?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Our first family bike was a mini bike, so-called mini bike. It had a Victor lawnmower engine. You had a ripcord to start it. So that's where it all began. And then I was too young to ride, so one of my brothers is a passionate biker as well. So I bothered him all the time to take me with him when he went riding. But eventually I rode myself, and then we grew up in the countryside in Australia, in Western Australia, and a lot of our family and friends had farms. So these farms are quite big. So in terms of rounding up cattle or sheep, we learnt to ride trail bikes.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Then it went on. I did some road racing in Australia for a few years, and then big bikes were my main form of transport. So it's been plus or minus 40 years, I guess, since I started riding.
Oh wow, 40 years.
Yeah.
That's a lot of experience. So what's the difference between the normal bike and the big bike?
Okay. Normal so-called motorcycle or scooter in Thailand, they're automatic or non-geared, and very simple to ride, very light, very simple, used mainly for short distance commuting, shopping, inner city. Big bikes, not so much. They're more for long distance riding. They're usually geared, although there's a couple of alternatives to that, so-called double clutch transmissions. Honda have some models like that, so they're basically automatic. But people usually ride big bikes. They go faster. They're bigger. They're heavier. for enjoyment, because if you like a motorcycle and you want to go riding and explore Thailand, or not just Thailand, but we're in Thailand, so we'll talk about that. Big bikes is a fantastic way to do it.
I saw that you have the big bike. Can you show me like what they are?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
This is the Wow Huahin channel.
So there's a lot of different big bikes. This is a so-called sports bike. It's very powerful, a lot of horsepower, has more than 200 horsepower. This one in particular is a very special edition bike, so it's very super light, very fast.
How fast can you go?
300 plus kilometers an hour.
Oh my God.
Yeah, not me of course. And then we have more of the so-called standard bike. So you see that the sports bike you have to lay down and they have the bent sports handlebars. This is more of a comfortable sitting position for road riding. This is also considered a sports bike, but more of a standard riding position. Mm-hmm. And then there's many others. There's cruising bikes, there's all sorts of different models. Our bikers, they ride all sorts of different bikes. Not so many have sports bikes and join our rides, because for long distance it's not super comfortable to sit like that. So most of our bikers have, if they have a sports bike, they have another bike and they join us on a standard seating position bike.
So can you tell me the tips before people to start, to get into the big bike?
Yep.
Like, is it safe? What do they have to do about?
I think the place to start is, most Western countries at least have staggered powered bikes. You have to master to ride a small bike before you go up to bigger capacity engines. So start with a small capacity engine until you learn how to control the bike. That's really important, because it's a little bit of an art to master changing the gears smoothly, braking and controlling the bike, the momentum of the bike.
Do you have the service here?
We have, in Thailand there are some training schools. We've done a couple of training programs, informal training programs for the bikers that ride with us. But there are some training schools in Bangkok mainly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is Huahin a good place for big bike riding?
Fantastic place. At our doorstep we have some amazing roads for big bike riders. Minutes away from us, where we sit right now, we spend every weekend riding in various directions, except east, because it gets very wet very quickly if you go east. But west, north, south, fantastic roads, fantastic scenery, many restaurants and cafes you can stop out and have a break, and road quality is amazing. One of the most fascinating things about this business and riding with these bikers is that they come from a very varied background, different personalities of course, business people, doctors, retired people,
wow.
People who run small businesses, but they have a common passion, and that's, they love to ride big bikes. So that's the common factor that brings us together. But what is amazing is the stories and the experience and the backgrounds they have. That makes it really interesting, because we're all from different backgrounds. Right? For our regular riders, we have chat groups. So we post when we're going to have a ride on those chat groups, and we talk about what's going to happen. I design the rides, or one of our business partners, Phil, he'll design the ride. And we are the road captain, so we're in charge of the ride. And we have safety rules, which everybody that rides with us regularly knows and follows. Anyone that comes to join a ride who is new, we give them a briefing on the safety rules, because we don't want accidents, and we want them to be safe and enjoy the ride, and we want them to come back and join us for refreshments afterwards and all have fun together.
Why are there so many accidents in Thailand with the motorbike?
Well, you're pointing at those, but actually the statistics for so-called big bikes is a very, very small percentage of overall accidents. The majority of accidents, 20,000 plus a year, as I understand it, is scooter riders who are not trained, don't know how to ride, sadly often unlicensed, unregistered, uninsured. The people that I guess are at the grassroots of society, they just don't have the means to learn properly how to ride, and they take risks on the road. Drivers of vehicles are not as aware of bikes as well in Thailand, so they don't look out for scooters necessarily. So sadly, the statistics for scooter rider accidents is very high.
So when you ride a big bike, do you have to wear, it's like a full uniform for it? The boots, the jacket, the helmet and things. What's the difference?
I personally do, yeah, all the gear, all the time. And we insist on it for people that join our rides. We don't ride with people who don't have the protective gear on. It's the first line of defence, and it saves lives. Helmets, jackets, gloves, boots, pants, special riding pants designed for big bikes. It saves lives.
What's the difference between riding the bike in Thailand and in other countries?
Well, I can talk a lot about Australia, being Australian. The biggest difference for me is that, in my opinion, I think Thailand offers the best road riding opportunities for big bike riders in ASEAN, in Asia Pacific. Fantastic roads in remarkable places in Thailand that you certainly don't have in Australia, and not so much traffic. But comparing how you ride in Australia as an example and Thailand, you have to be much more aware of other drivers and other vehicles and other hazards on the road. We talked about the number of accidents here. You also have to be very aware of scooter riders, wear your protective gear, and this is a bit controversial, but I insist the people that join our rides, they flash their lights, high beam lights, and use their horn more than, let's say, the average. So people know that you're there, and it does help. So being aware, after riding or driving for a while here, you learn to predict almost what drivers and scooter riders are going to do in a lot of instances, so you can avoid, if you like, some of the hazards, not all of them, but some of the hazards.
So if, let's say, a person that interested to ride the big bike.
Before COVID, we had an inbound tour business as well, so some of the times I would lead the tours. So we would have groups of people from overseas come to join one of our package tours. And we have other people that do that as well. And so I've ridden almost every sealed road in Thailand, with very few exceptions.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for today for giving me, a really interesting about big bike. ขอบคุณนะคะ
ขอบคุณครับ
Thanks for watching the Wow Huahin channel. Do leave your comments or questions below and we'll get back to you. The Wow Huahin channel is produced by Surf 102.5 and Royal Coast Review in association with the Phoenix Group.